Hey Archery Talk, this is Lucas, and today is the culmination of my past several months of bow testing. It is the 2025 ArcheryTalk Hunting Bow Shootout, and this year I have 6 bows in for testing, all brand new for 2025, and here they are in the order I received them. First up is the Mathews Lift X 33, followed by the Prime Form, the Bowtech Proven 34, Xpedition XLite 32, Elite Hunter 33, and Darton Sequel 35 ST2. Now you may have noticed that there are several bow manufacturers unrepresented here. Just please be aware that I have reached out to 5 additional manufacturers who either couldn't get a bow to me on time for this shootout or chose not to participate this year. Hopefully we'll get them on board next year. There's some big names that obviously we had last year and in prior years. I'm really hoping to get them back on board for 2026. Now on to the shootout, which I've broken down into multiple categories, and each category kind of holds a different weight in choosing my bow of the year winner. Let's get to it. So the first category up for me is draw cycle. Now I know a lot of folks like to start with speed, but for me, I am a sucker for a nice drawing bow, and this year there were a lot of very good contenders. The winner for me is going to be the brand new Darton 35 ST2. I've long wanted to get a Darton bow in for testing, really since I've started doing these videos. This is the first time I've been able to make that happen, and it is holding up its own very well. With the comfort mods, and I did a full draw cycle video, so you can refer to that if you like. I'll try to keep this fairly brief, but with the standard kind of comfort mods on the Darton, this bow is as nice to draw as any I could really ever remember shooting. It's kind of, there's a few in the mix for that kind of best drawing bow of my archery career, but this is as good as any as far as I'm concerned. And even with the speed mod, which comes with the bow package, that's a nice feature that I really like. This bow is maybe no worse than middle of the pack. And that's saying something considering how well that setup performed in our speed test, and there's more on that in just a little while. Just following behind the Darton are going to be the Prime Form and the Bowtech Proven 34 with the comfort setting. Both of those could easily have been first place. If you would choose those as your favorites, I will offer you no resistance to that whatsoever. Speed is up next, and this is a category I like to look at in a couple of different ways. The most obvious of the bunch is which bow is fastest, and next is which bow comes the closest to actually reaching its advertised speed. There is a lot of disparity in that in my experience over the years. There can be some pretty major differences between what I'm seeing through the chronograph and what the bows are saying on the box or on the manufacturer websites. All of the testing I did for speed was done with 70 pounds of draw weight, 30 inches of draw length, and a 350 grain arrow. And with all that in mind, the clear winner was the Bowtech Proven 34 with the performance mod. That bow shot a blistering 334 feet per second, which was first overall, and it was only 2 feet per second down from the advertised speed, which is really remarkable. That happens very rarely in my experience, to have a bow speed kind of come that close to the advertised speed. And this is also the 3rd year running that Bowtech has won the speed award in all of my testing. So that's pretty impressive. They always come very close to their advertised speeds. It's a real winner of a setup. And following just behind Bowtech was that new Darton with the speed mod installed on that bow. That came in at 331 feet per second. That was a tie with the Mathews Lift X 33. And the Darton was only 4 feet per second off of its advertised speed. So both of the Darton and the Bowtech, very close to hitting their numbers, which is a big win in my books. It should be noted that all of the 6 bows came within 9 feet per second of each other, which is a fairly small amount, all things considered. So if speed is kind of important to you, any of these bows is going to get the job done, but if you really want the fastest of the fastest, that Bowtech Proven 34 with a performance mod is probably the way to go. The next category is going to be stability and accuracy, and realistically, this is probably the most important category of any archery test. If you don't shoot a bow well and consistently, you're probably not going to perform very well. And all of these bows, I'll say up front, shoot way better than I do. Let's be realistic. I'm not a pro level shooter, and so there's going to be some kind of minutia with how accurate these bows are that I just can't get to because I'm not that good. But for me this year, there was one bow that just kind of fit better than all the others, and that was the Mathews Lift X 33. That was the first bow that came in this year. It's the bow I like shooting the most because I just feel the most confident with it. Now that's a lot of factors could be at play in there, how the grip feels in your hand, how the draw length maybe measures just for you, the string angle, and all of that. All that considered, the Mathews was kind of number one choice for me this year. Following kind of just behind, and again, all of these bows are better than I am. I just want to make that perfectly clear, but the Prime Form and the Darton Sequel 35 are kind of just a level behind the Mathews in my mind. Again, your mileage may vary, and I absolutely understand if it does, but for me, the Mathews takes top prize in the stability category. Our next category is noise and vibration. This has not historically been a super important one for me, but I can absolutely understand that a lot of you take kind of a great heed in how the bows perform as far as how much noise and how much vibration they give you after the shot. And the winner for me this year is going to be that Mathews Lift X 33. Ever since the Mathews kind of came out, I don't know, maybe with the Vertex a few years ago, they've been super quiet bows, and they keep finding ways to make them quieter and with little to no vibration, at least that I could notice after the shot. When they're set up and tuned really well, the Mathews bows are as silent as anything I could remember shooting. That said, it's not like they're a clear-cut winner for me this year. The Prime Form is pretty much neck and neck with the Mathews. I'm going to give the Lift X maybe just the slightest edge, but that Prime Form, for how light it is, that's a sub 4-pound bow, I think. It's remarkably quiet and very little vibration after the shot. Prime's done a great job with that new kind of innovative carbon aluminum riser hybrid they've created. And so I'm really happy to report that it's not causing any undue vibration. The next category for me is going to be grip. And I think that's one that might not be super important to a lot of people. They don't really consider the grip, but it's a real important one for me because that is the only way I'm really connected to the bow when I'm shooting it, besides the release, but that's not really on the bow, is it? So the grip for me, I tend to like a very flat grip. I kind of almost like, in a lot of target bows, shooting right off of the riser. It's just a feel I like. It feels stable to me. And I like a grip that's, middle to maybe a little bit narrow side, very flat. An adjustable angle is huge for me. And so this year there's a few bows that kind of meet that criteria, but the one that just feels the best in my hand is the Xpedition XLite 32. This is the second year Xpedition has won that category for me. The grip feels absolutely perfect in my hand. And I do like that it comes with two different grip options. You've got a 17 and a 19 degree kind of grip angle for you to choose from, so you can pick which one works best for you. And a close second for me is going to be the Bowtech Proven 34. That grip is really quite adjustable. It's not just different plates. It's one grip that you can kind of change the adjustability on in and out. It's a great feature Bowtech has, and you can really kind of set it up to suit your needs just about right. It's super narrow, which I like. I really could have had it pick first place overall, but I just for some reason like how that Xpedition feels in my hand. Our next category is tunability. And I think some folks I've heard argue a lot in recent years that hunting bows haven't really changed a lot in the last handful of years. But I'm going to disagree when it comes to how the bows can be tuned. Bowtech kind of started it all with their deadlock system, and they've got the time lock now to adjust the timing. Elite followed suit very shortly thereafter with set technology, and now a bunch of other manufacturers have jumped on it. Just this year, Darton has their setup, Mathews Archery has one, Obsession and Martin Archery, who aren't in this particular shootout, hopefully get their bows soon. They have versions of their own that all kind of work on similar methods, that you can adjust the flight, aeroflight, and tune of your bow without touching a bow press. That's hugely important to me because every time you want to make a change, you don't necessarily want to run to a shop. If you can do it on your own, if you can do it on the shooting line if need be, all of those bows allow you to do that. So with that said, it's kind of hard to pick a winner because they all do the job. For me, the Bowtech is still the most intuitive. I just like how you can move the cam along the axle with the deadlock system. It works really well for me. But the Darton is every bit as good in that category. Darton is a very close second for me this year with their perfect tune and perfect time setups. They work excellently. The perfect time is my favorite timing adjustment of any bow I've ever touched in my life. You just loosen a set screw and then you can make twists in the strings, or sorry, in the cables rather, both cables without ever using a bow press. Fantastic idea and a brilliant move by Darton Archery. Darton's a super innovative company. They have made a lot of innovations in compound archery that have affected many manufacturers. So no surprise to see them do something very cool with that this year. Fit and finish is our next category, and this is probably the bottom of the list in terms of importance for me. None of it affects how the bow shoots, how the bow tunes. It's just the visual appearance of the bows. However, when you're spending this kind of money on a flagship level hunting bow, we're talking, you know, upwards of $1,300, $1,400, up to $2,000 on a flagship hunting bow. You want it to look the part. It's part of the package, no matter what your thoughts of kind of fit and finish are. And for me, these are all really high quality bows, but the two that stand out for me are going to be the Prime Form and the Xpedition XLite 32. The Form, I will admit, took me a little bit of getting used to with those kind of carbon tubes mixed in with the aluminum riser together. But over time, I just started really liking how it looked. I also love how light it is. It's super easy to carry. I like carrying it just by the carbon if I'm kind of walking around outside, because it doesn't get cold or doesn't get too hot. It really looks like a nice looking bow. And Prime for me for years has been as good as anybody with their finishes and how their bows look. And the Xpedition I really like how they match the colors on so many of the components on the bows. So this year my Xpedition is kind of black, so I've got black limbs, I've got black cams, and several other kind of black accessories that are not even accessories, parts of the bow that are all made the same color. Last year I had more earth-toned XLite 29. That would look fantastic. I think that looks really good. So those two for me are top of the charts when it comes to fit and finish this year. Our final category is going to be price and value, and for me there is a pretty clear winner this year, and that's going to be the Elite Hunter 33. Elite gave me the ability to choose whatever bow I wanted for testing this year, and in the past I've always just chosen their newest flagship model, but I thought I wanted to get one bow in that was a little bit more budget friendly. Now it's still a $1,000 bow, so it's not exactly a budget bow, but it's $300 less than the second cheapest bow in this competition, and $900 less than the most expensive bow in this kind of comparison. So it's a real cost savings. Let's say you average that out and it's $450 less than your average flagship bow. Well, $450 gets you a dozen fantastic arrows, maybe an arrow rest, maybe a sight, not top of the line stuff, but usable products that'll work for you. Like, that's a really big savings. And performance-wise, it performs every bit as good as the other Elites I've shot in recent years. It's a good fast bow, it holds on target well, it's a nice platform, it's a different cam system than their flagship level bow, but it works really well overall. The only thing it's missing is the set technology, which is, you know, that's their tuning tech, which I would really appreciate to have on a bow. But if budget is a big concern, you really can't go wrong with saving that money and going with the Elite Hunter 33. Now it's time for the tough part, and that is picking a winner. And this is always a very difficult choice for me, because each of these bows realistically has something that I like about it more than I like about most of the other bows that I've shot this year. And that's the case every year. They've all got their strengths. They've all got their maybe things I don't like as much about them. There's no perfect bow. So it is very difficult for me to kind of choose which one is better than the others. And I will admit firsthand that this is 100% subjective. So you could test all these bows the exact same as I have and come up with a completely different answer, and I would absolutely understand and wouldn't question your decision making at all. With that in mind, I think the winner for me this year, I'm going to go with the one I'm just shooting the best and I'm most comfortable shooting, and that's going to be the Mathews Lift X 33. I have been a big proponent of Mathews, the cross-center cam, and it's a slightly different cam now, but very similar as far as performance goes. Ever since it came out, the Vertex was one of maybe my favorite hunting bow of all time. And I'm delighted with the Lift X 33. One, because it's got Mathews' new tuning tech, which allows you to kind of do your tuning without needing to, buy a separate top hat system, which you used to have to do on Mathews bows. I love that. I love that I just shoot it as well as I shoot any other bow this year. As far as, like, I would call this a perfect kind of do everything bow. If you want to do hunting, you want to do some 3D. It's 33 inches long, which I like. I like a longer bow like that. That's kind of like the 32, 33 is really a perfect hunting bow for me. And it's still kind of accurate enough for me to shoot 3D with. So that's why I'm going to give the Mathews the edge. But I will tell you, I came very, very close to choosing the Darton Sequel 35 as well. Again, a 35-inch platform is super stable and easy to shoot. The tuning technology on this bow is fantastic. I love the perfect timing, as I mentioned before. That works really, really well. And the bow is just a pleasure to draw back. and it's really fast. And you know, these bows had the same speed overall. They both shot 331 feet per second when I've got the speed mods on this bow. But if I wanted an easier to shoot bow, I would just throw on the standard mods on this bow. I'd lose about 5 feet a second in speed, but I'd make up for it with just a fantastic draw cycle. So no matter how you slice it, Archery Talk, all of these bows are great. I would happily take any of them into the woods with me if I'm going to go deer hunting or turkey hunting or what have you. So please head to your local dealer, try as many of these bows as you can for yourself before picking yourself a new one this fall. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel an awful lot, and we'll see you soon.